Tonight's story is The Last Room, where we discover what happens when a mysterious hotel room offers guests a chance to change their past. But at what cost? A tale of regret, redemption, and the price we pay for second chances. The Last Room. The screams echoed down the carpeted hallway of the 8th floor, just as Eva Mendez finished her morning rounds. Not the typical guest complaints she was used to. These were different. Raw. Primal. They came from room 8113. Eva found Mr. Peterson, the middle-aged investment banker who'd checked in yesterday, crumpled against the bathroom doorframe. His tailored suit was wrinkled, tears streaming down his face. "She was right here," he whispered, reaching toward empty air. "Caroline was right here, in her blue dress, the one she wore that morning. I got to tell her I loved her this time, before," his voice cracked, "before the accident." Eva had handled countless guest meltdowns in her 15 years at the Grand Palmer Hotel, but something about Mr. Peterson's vacant stare made her pause. The room looked perfectly normal. Queen bed with pressed sheets, heavy burgundy drapes drawn back, afternoon sun streaming through spotless windows. Nothing that should reduce a grown man to tears. "Sir, can I call someone for you?" He grabbed her arm. "You don't understand. I was there, back in my bedroom the morning she died. Everything exactly the same. The coffee cup on the nightstand, her perfume in the air. I could have stopped her from driving to work that day. I could have... Mr. Peterson, please, let me help you up." The Grand Palmer had seen better days. Like its guests, the hotel clung to fading memories of grandeur, crystal chandeliers dulled by decades of dust, gilt wallpaper peeling at the seams. But it was still Eva's domain, and she ran it with precision born of necessity. Single mothers couldn't afford to believe in ghosts. That was before Mrs. Zhang reported seeing her childhood home in China behind the bathroom mirror. Before the teenager in 809 ran sobbing down the hall, claiming he'd witnessed his parents' divorce all over again. Before the elderly man in contact paper shorts who wandered into 813 by mistake emerged describing his 1952 wedding in perfect detail. "Getting weird reports about 813 again," Jack told her one morning, as he fixed yet another flickering hallway sconce. The maintenance man's lined face had seen 30 years of the hotel's secrets. Like that business back in 98. What business? "Before your time, ask Richards about it, if he'll talk." But Richards, the hotel manager, brushed off her questions with corporate smoothness. "Focus on the upcoming convention, Eva. We need those rooms spotless." So she did what she'd always done, worked harder. It had carried her from teenage maid to head housekeeper, had kept food on the table for Maria after her husband split. Her daughter helped out after school now, sorting linens and charming guests with her easy smile, so different from Eva's own guarded nature. "Mum, why don't we have any pictures of Aunt Lisa?" Maria asked once, dusting the framed photos in Eva's office. Eva's hand froze on her clipboard. Some things are better left in the past. But the past refused to stay buried. That evening, David Chen, tech executive in town for the convention, entered room 8113. Security footage showed him swiping his keycard at 6:42 p.m. He never came out. Eva watched the tape a dozen times. No one exited the room. When she keyed in, the bed was made, the shower dry, the closet empty. Chen's luggage sat untouched by the window. "Insurance will handle any liability," Richards assured her, already drafting the press statement. "No need to involve the police." But as Eva stood in the doorway of 8113, something caught her eye. A photo had fallen behind the dresser, old, curved at the corners. She picked it up with trembling fingers. It showed the Grand Palmer's lobby, circa 1995. And there in the background, barely visible but unmistakable, was her sister, Lisa. taken the day she disappeared. Eva's pragmatic world tilted on its axis because she remembered that day with perfect clarity, and Lisa had never been to the hotel. Had she? Eva slipped into the hotel's basement archive after her evening rounds, flashlight beam dancing across rows of mouldering boxes. Jack had left the key under the service elevator's loose tile, along with a hastily scrawled note, 1972-1998. Look for incident reports. The musty darkness pressed in around her as she pulled file after file, pieces of a disturbing puzzle falling into place. June 1972. James Cooper, Vietnam veteran, last seen entering 8113 after arguing with his wife about his friend's death in combat. December 1985. Margaret Sullivan, retired kindergarten teacher, vanished after mentioning a student she couldn't save from an abusive home. April 1998. Sarah Martinez, young mother, disappeared the night after her daughter's leukemia diagnosis. 3 others, all gone without a trace, all from the same room. "You shouldn't be down here," Richards's voice cut through the darkness. Eva jumped, files scattering across the floor. The past has a way of disturbing the present. But it was already too late. She'd seen the pattern and something else. A letter from 1965, when the 8th floor had housed medical offices. One Dr. Marcus Grant, specializing in memory regression therapy and the treatment of psychological trauma. She found more in the city archives. Grant's patients reported vivid hallucinations, claiming they could physically revisit their memories. His research became increasingly erratic, focused on what he called temporal displacement through emotional resonance. Then she discovered his journal. "The door appears differently to each subject," Grant wrote in increasingly frantic script, "but its purpose remains constant, a gateway to moments of deepest regret, a chance to change the past, but the price? The price is..." The rest was illegible, water-damaged. Grant himself vanished in 1969, leaving only questions. Detective Santos was sympathetic but helpless. 6 missing persons over 50 years. In a hotel this size? Without evidence of foul play, I can't open an investigation. But the evidence was mounting, just not the kind police would accept. The temperature in 8113 plummeted randomly, frost forming on windows in summer heat. Phones died instantly. Televisions turned themselves on, broadcasting nothing but static. "Mom, listen," Maria insisted one evening, playing a recording on her phone. Under the hiss of interference, voices whispered, "Change it this time. Please, one more chance." "You need to stay away from that room," Eva warned her daughter. But she saw the same obsession in Maria's eyes that she felt herself. The need to understand. More photos emerged as Eva dug deeper. Lisa appeared in the backgrounds of dozens of shots from 1995, lingering in the lobby, ascending the grand staircase, standing before room 8113. How was it possible? Eva had been certain Lisa disappeared from outside their apartment, waiting for a ride that never came, a ride Eva was supposed to provide. The guilt she'd carried for 15 years twisted like a knife. "I found something else," Jack told her one rainy afternoon, "about the others who vanished. Each one, they were carrying something heavy. Cooper couldn't forgive himself for surviving. Sullivan blamed herself for that kid. Martinez thought she should have noticed her daughter's symptoms sooner." "Regret," Eva whispered. "They all regretted something." She rushed to 8113, mind racing. The door was ajar. Maria's backpack lay abandoned in the hallway, school books spilling across the carpet. A note in teenage scrawl, "I know about Aunt Lisa. I'm going to fix it." Eva burst into the room, but she was too late. No sign of Maria, just frost on the windows, static on the TV, and her daughter's phone recording one final whisper, "Come back, come back, come back." Eva sank to her knees, the truth crushing down like a physical weight. Room 8113 didn't just show people their deepest regrets. It offered them a chance to change them. And now it had taken her daughter, just as it had taken all the others who couldn't resist that temptation. Just as it had somehow, impossibly, taken Lisa all those years ago. The hotel room seemed to pulse around her, weighted with decades of accumulated grief and guilt. On the bed, a familiar journal appeared, Dr. Grant's final observations, previously lost to time. The last page held only 5 words. "The door opens both ways." Eva stood, determination replacing despair. She knew what she had to do. Room 8113 had taken everything from her. Now she was going in after it. Eva stepped into room 8113 for the last time. Dr. Grant's journal clutched to her chest like a shield. The door clicked shut behind her with the finality of a tomb. The hotel room dissolved. She stood on a rain-slicked street corner 15 years ago. Her old apartment building loomed overhead, and there was Lisa, 23 forever, checking her watch. Waiting. The scene played out exactly as it had haunted Eva's dreams, her sister huddling under the building's awning, growing increasingly anxious as minutes ticked by. No cell phones back then, no way to call for help when the wrong car pulled up, the wrong man offered a ride. "I'm sorry," Eva whispered, her voice breaking. "I was working late. I forgot." The scene flickered and suddenly she wasn't alone. David Chen stood beside her, watching his own memory play out in a hospital room, a last chance to say goodbye to his mother, missed because of a business meeting. Beyond him, through impossible geometry, other scenes unfolded like a shattered mirror. James Cooper reaching for a friend seconds before a landmine. Margaret Sullivan watching a child leave her classroom for the last time. Sarah Martinez missing the pallor in her daughter's cheeks. And there was Maria, trapped in an endless loop of their last fight. "I hate you. I wish Aunt Lisa had raised me instead." Each person trying desperately to change their moment, each attempt making the regret cut deeper. The room fed on their pain like a living thing, growing stronger with every failed revision. "Maria!" Eva called out, but her daughter couldn't hear through the fog of memory. Then she noticed something in Dr. Grant's journal, previously hidden in the binding. The room offers change but requires acceptance. Only by embracing what cannot be altered can one escape its grasp. Eva understood. She'd spent 15 years trying to rewrite a single moment, but time only moved forward. The room hadn't taken Lisa, Eva's guilt had. She pushed through the overlapping memories until she reached James Cooper. "You couldn't have saved him," she said firmly. "The war took him, not you." Something shifted in the air. Cooper looked at her, really looked, for the first time. "But if I had just... No, accept it wasn't your fault, or you'll be trapped here forever." The veteran's scene wavered, then dissolved as understanding washed over his face. He vanished, not into darkness, but into light. Eva moved through the fractured space, reaching each lost soul in turn. Margaret Sullivan finally accepted that she couldn't save everyone. Sarah Martinez realized her daughter's illness wasn't a punishment for imperfect vigilance. With each acceptance, the room's power weakened. She found Maria last, the words of their fight echoing endlessly. "I forgive you," Eva said, pulling her daughter close, "and I forgive myself. Lisa's death wasn't my fault. It wasn't anyone's fault except the man who took her." The memories shattered like glass. They stood in room 8113 again, but not alone. David Chen remained, staring at his hospital scene with desperate longing. "Please," Eva begged, "come with us." He smiled sadly. "I'm not ready. Maybe next time." Eva wanted to argue, but she understood. Some people weren't ready to let go. The room would keep offering second chances, keep feeding on regret, until they were. That evening, workers sealed the room with concrete. Eva pocketed the key, not to use it, but to remember, to accept. 2 days later, she and Maria stood before Lisa's memorial. Maria placed fresh flowers beneath her aunt's name. "Do you think Mr. Chen will ever leave?" she asked. "When he's ready to accept his past, the room will let him go." Eva had found Dr. Grant's final notes in the basement. The room's power had called to him first, decades ago, promising a way to help patients overcome trauma. But it was older than him, older than the hotel itself. It would continue offering its poisoned promise of change to those desperate enough to believe. But Eva knew better now. The past was written in stone. The only way forward was acceptance. She squeezed her daughter's hand, and together they walked into the future, leaving room 8113 and its impossible door behind, for now.